So the items that you're going to need are a socket set. This is going to be a 12mm socket set. You need something to compress the caliper pins, or I'm sorry, the piston pins back, a little bit of anti-seize, and a set of brake pads of your choice. We're going to go ahead and go with OEMs, and we're going to show you how to take off your brake pads and your caliper pins next. Alright, so the first step that we're going to do whenever we're removing these there's going to be two caliper pins, one right here and one right here. We're going to go counterclockwise with the socket, and I usually like to loosen them up. If you have a breaker bar, that's even easier. I use my hands, and you got kind of two different pads inside here. You can either leave one on here and then swing this all the way up, or you can remove both of these. And what we're going to do after the fact with these pins to make them easier in the future to replace is we're going to go ahead and lubricate these with anti-seize next. So before we move on to removing this next step, the thing I recommend is actually getting a bucket or a metal wire. So we're going to hang this so that we don't destroy this brake line right here. So you can either use a bungee cord and go a little bit higher up here to hang this up, but we're going to go ahead and grab a bucket, each of these, and show you the next step. So this may be tight or may come out easy. In this case, I sort of lucked out. It came out fairly easy, and we're going to go ahead and position it. So we're going to see how these pop out pretty easily right here. So we're going to go ahead and leave the bottom one there, and the top one popped out. Looks like they're a verbatim set from each other. We're going to go ahead and pull out this brake pad, and we're going to go ahead and pull out this brake pad here. Looks like we've got some decent life on these, but we're going to go ahead and replace these to get two sets in, and then we're going to go ahead and remove each of these parts right here, and we're going to go ahead and clean them here shortly. So we'll show the next steps of cleaning these off. Whenever you have these shims right here, you just get a wire brush and clean each of these out. If you got a new set, I recommend just go ahead and get some new ones. And after you're done with each of these, you potentially could clean out each of these as well with a little bit of brake cleaner. And all of this is brake dust, and all of this stuff is totally normal. So after you've finished up reinstalling them and cleaning them, you can put them back in your unit and do the, you may hear a snap, and then while they're in there, you can go ahead and clean them out as well. You can actually leave them on here and clean them up as well. And the thing you can do if you want, which is I usually do, is I will spray some brake cleaner on here and wipe it with a paper towel as well. And then just inspect your caliper to see if there's any dirt or grime from it, and then you can move on next. We're going to go ahead, and if you're ever curious, I went ahead and cleaned this with a little brake cleaner and a paper towel. The minimum rotor thickness on this one is 23. I'll cover it right there, so 23. And what you do is you measure with a caliper the thickness of this, and then if you're below that, then you should go ahead and replace the rotor as well. So what we're going to do coming up next is we're going to push this back with this caliper tool right here, and push this in right here, and then we're going to push this back. The next step that you want to do is you want to go ahead and open up your brake reservoir. I went ahead and pre-opened it up. There's a piece of plastic right here that you can remove it, but I just loosen it up and leave it towards the top. What's going to happen is when you compress that piston, it's going to raise the level of the brake fluid up. So you want to make sure that there's room to expand in case it goes up a little bit higher. So we're going to grease up some of these parts before we end up putting them back in. So we're going to go ahead and place some grease on the parts back here. Feel free to be a little bit liberal. We're going to go ahead and use our fingers back here, and this is kind of the thin layer that we're going to put in outside here. And there's some guides on here, but we're going to go ahead and snap those in. What I like to do is I like to wipe them down a little bit, just from any of the excess that's on there. And then we're going to place a little bit more grease on the parts right here, right along the edge. And then when you're ready, just make sure we clean off any of the grease that you put on here, and we can go ahead and prep the next part as well. And that's going to be just a standard brake pad right here as well. Same concept, we're going to put a little bit of grease. Then I'm going to put it on some more parts of this. Alright, so it's throughout the back. And then I'm going to go ahead and install this. And then I'm going to wipe off any of the excess parts right here. And then we're going to install these back in. And then, as always, let's make sure that we get these edges over here as well. We're going to go ahead and put our brake pad in next, and make sure we wipe off any excess off of our brake pad. We don't want them physically on the brake pad themselves. So you can align them in if that helps. Go ahead and give yourself enough room to do the install, and then they will press inside here. I always like it to get a rag just in case I clean up any of these areas. And from the other brake pad that you've seen here, we're going to go ahead and do the similar, and we're going to go ahead and move this around to give you a better angle. We're going to go ahead and align them up. Place them inside there, and then we're going to, of course, wipe them up, and then we're going to lubricate the caliper pins next. And if you large container like me, I usually try to wipe off some of the excess to save. And I'm going to get those pins ready. And after we've placed these on, we're going to go ahead and put apologies, we're going to go ahead and put these items in next. So you're going to put in one side, compress, go ahead and put in the other side. There we go. So we're going to go ahead and put in these two top portions as well into the two holes right here. We're going to go ahead and put in the caliper next. And the thing that you're going to have to watch for are these two sliding pins here. And then you're going to go ahead and put each of these pins in. And then after you've done this, I recommend going to do your other side, close your reservoir, and then go ahead and pump the brakes before you start off on driving your car. So before you end up starting, we're going to take the brake reservoir out. There's a piece of plastic right inside here that you're going to push in. And then go ahead and open the cap and just leave it open there. Even though this... Alright, so let's make sure that you close the brake reservoir right behind this plastic portion right here. We loosened this up at the very beginning just to make sure that we had plenty of room, so make sure you close it.